Now, once they're inside the email, that gives them the ability to reset the passcode on all the various accounts, which are crypto, finance, banking, whatever, credit card, Amazon, eBay, PayPal, whatever, okay? So they can reset the passcode on all the various accounts, but then they still need that second factor, for example, Coinbase, whatever it might be, the crypto. Yeah. They still need that second factor, which is once they gain access to the email, then once they have a handle on all the various accounts, then the next thing they need to do is swap out that SIM.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to Watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. Well, as we get to the end of October, we're getting to Halloween, and nothing is spookier to think that somebody could get all of your passwords to all your banking, to your credit cards, to everything, to your email, and take over your life. Well, that's a real scary scenario, so it's appropriate for Halloween. And our good friend Robert Siciliano is with us now. He is a security expert. Robert, you go around the world lecturing about this stuff, password managers, all of this. My greatest fear in life, one of them, and I guess I have a few, is that somebody will crack the Apple password security scheme through neural network or quantum computing, and they'll have the keys to the mansion, if you will. Is that fear overblown, or is it realistic?
So that's entirely possible. Now, password management is everything from making sure you're using strong passwords, which are uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and characters, sometimes passphrases, to utilizing a password manager that facilitates having a different password across every account. And then, of course, there's biometrics, there's facial recognition, there's fingerprinting, and so forth. And then, of course, adding on additional security means two-factor authentication, and whether that's using some type of an authenticator app or it's using SMS text, right, or iMessage, whatever it might be, and everything beyond that and in between. It's encryption and breaking encryption codes, and all of those concerns need to be addressed at some level. Okay, but here's the thing: like for most of us. Most of us are using the same passcode across multiple accounts.
Big mistake.
The biggest mistake.
Yeah.
Most of us are not using two-factor authentication for all of our critical accounts. Okay, most of us. And when I say most of us...
Mistake.
Huge
mistake.
And I know this because, statistically, that's what all the studies show. But beyond that, I get in front of live audiences all the time. So I might work with a financial services professional who has like a book of business of, I don't know, like $1 billion, $2 billion a year worth of investments or whatever, or in clients or whatever. And he'll have, his top like 100 people come in, and I'll speak to them and I'll ask them, like, how many of you use a password manager? And like 10 of them will raise their hand. And then the next question is, how many of you use two-factor authentication for email? And like 5 of them will raise their hand, And these are moneyed individuals, and they're not doing much in the way to protect their own data, their own devices. And this is your client base. So if someone breaks into your client's email and then begins to communicate with you as one of your clients, right? Because they're in your client's email, and you're thinking, this is my client reaching out to me, communicating via email. And if that, in this case, criminal hacker is good enough to impersonate your client from your client's email, which isn't that difficult to do, they can get you in many ways to transfer money out of your client's account and so on. It can just get as ugly as it can possibly be. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just did a presentation yesterday for real estate agents, and real estate agents are handling a lot of sensitive client information. They're handling wire transfers in many various states and so on. And I asked the same question of real estate agents who are service professionals who deal with transactions, who deal with sensitive data, and they're not any more secure than your basic, investor.
Unbelievable. Two things. So a lot of financial websites mandatory two-factor authentication now, even to the point where they won't go with the SMS code for you to type in. They actually make you approve it on your device, where it says, are you trying to get into American Express, yes or no? And if you say no, that's the end of it. Right. And the other thing is, there's a thing called SIM swapping. I didn't even know about this, but a friend of mine, she got nailed from a crypto account. They went into T-Mobile in New York. She was in Florida, and they said they were her. Maybe they even had some identification. Yeah. And they said they lost their phone. They got a new phone with a SIM. They managed to pull out 18 grand from her crypto account, and they were in the process of trying to steal money out of her bank account, but it was stopped. Now, the bank account, you're going to be covered eventually. Well, God knows how long that's going to take. But the crypto account, a lot more complicated. It had to go to a lawyer, got to be suing these people. And I don't even know in the end if they're liable to you or not, if they actually did what they said we're supposed to do. Yeah. So this is like disaster in the making here.
It's a big deal.
You got to make sure that your phone company will never give someone another phone with a cloned SIM card that, it's really tough. That one really took me for a loop.
Yeah. So I just 2 weeks ago, I testified as an expert witness in a SIM swap case just 2 weeks ago. And the victim in this case, which is the plaintiff, my client, and his attorney, he lost $19,000 worth of crypto because one of the telcos facilitated his SIM card being swapped out, which meant that the criminals were able to get into his Coinbase account.
Exactly.
And they made I don't know how many hundreds of $4 and $5 transfers out of his account over the course of a long weekend.
And the phone stopped working, right? His phone stopped working. He had no idea why.
Correct.
He couldn't even get through to the carrier, right?
Correct. So there's a few things going on there. In the case of your friend and my client, I would bet that your client's email was also compromised.
Had to be because how else could they know about the account?
Yes. I would bet that the client's email was compromised first. Mm-hmm. Same with my client, because I'm confident that my client's email was compromised first. Now, once they're inside the email, that gives them the ability to reset the passcode on all the various accounts, which are crypto, finance, banking, whatever, credit card, Amazon, eBay, PayPal, whatever. Okay. So they can reset the passcode on all the various accounts, but then they still need that second factor. For example, Coinbase, whatever it might be, the crypto. Yeah. They still need that second factor, which is once they gain access to the email, then once they have a handle on all the various accounts, then the next thing they need to do is swap out that SIM. And so the main problem with swapping out the SIM for the user is that your AT&Ts and T-Mobiles and Boosts and all that, they have authorized resellers, authorized dealers. And you know what the authorized dealer is? It's a guy on the corner of downtown Main Street between the gas station and the convenience store and the dry cleaner. And he's selling gum, candy, and T-Mobile phones. And he's an authorized reseller.
Yeah.
And so in order for, and he's also selling SIM cards.
Mhm.
And in order for him to activate a SIM card, all he's got to do is just be an authorized reseller. And while the big telcos, the AT&Ts, the T-Mobiles of the world, have all these various systems in place that require that reseller to check ID, well, yeah, the reseller could say, yeah, I saw our ID. They showed me an ID. Whether they showed ID or not, that's just the honor system.
Probably not an expert either in identifying fraudulent ID.
That's it. And if a guy walks in and says, I'll give you $1,000 to swap out this SIM, you think he's going to resist?
Mm-hmm.
And chances are, if somebody's walked in and said, I'll give you $1,000, they already have a relationship.
Yeah,
like that.
ongoing.
This is not the first time that reseller has swapped out a SIM. Like, this is something he does. This is something he's known for. And in the case that I testified to, there were 2 resellers in different parts of the country that had swapped out the particular SIM of this guy's phone multiple times over the course of 2 and 3 days.
Wow.
So what they did is they had actually swapped out the SIM, were able to log in, change the passcode of a particular account, get that one-time text message to his phone via SMS, logged into the account, and then swap the SIM back to the original, just like that. And they did that over a period of time, and they got into a number of different accounts over a 2 and 3 day period of time. So that's where utilizing an authenticator app is better than utilizing your mobile phone number as that second factor.
All right. So authenticator apps, many of you are probably not familiar with it. They can be a pain. Google has an authenticator. There's a number of them out there. But from what you're saying, Robert, that is the safest route to go rather than 2-factor, although Coinbase has 3-factor authentication sometimes, certainly when you're opening an account. So all of this, you really got to think seriously about it.
Yes. It requires you as a user, somebody who has something to lose, and an account holder to focus on what it is you're getting yourself into when it comes to setting up 2-factor authentication versus an authenticator app, and then determining what your best options are. The easiest thing, obviously, is the SMS, using your mobile phone. But the authenticator as an actual app on your device is a different story entirely, and that's the direction you want to head.
Yeah.
In addition to that, if you ever have the opportunity to use a Google Voice phone number as that second factor as a phone number versus your mobile phone number, utilizing Google Voice as a phone number, second factor, is actually more secure than your actual phone number.
Sure.
Because there's no SIM involved in a Google Voice number. You can't swap out a Google Voice number.
So this is why all the carriers are going to SIM-less, cardless SIMs, electronic SIMs, because they see the potential for fraud here. And in theory, at least, that should eliminate it. But it's pretty scary. I mean, right now, both of my phones are cardless SIMs. So that's where you don't actually have the SIM that can be reprogrammed. You actually have to program a new phone. So they must have some means of going about it to prevent that new phone from being cloned.
What they do at the corporate level and at the authorized actual AT&T store, the actual T-Mobile store, like at the actual T-Mobile store, when you walk in, because you want to swap out a SIM, they're requesting your driver's license, and then they will actually scan the back of the barcode in the back of the driver's license to make sure that it's a legit driver's license.
Correct.
And they'll have that on record. And that reduces T-Mobile's liability in that regard. And AT&T has similar but not the same processes. Keeping in mind that prior to me testifying as an expert witness in this SIM swap case, I'm not going to name the defendant in the case. The day before I testified, I called Boost Mobile. I called T-Mobile. I called AT&T. I called my own AT&T to find out what are my options as far as swapping out my SIM, because my phone fell in the toilet. What do I do? And the woman on the phone told me all my options. And she was like very, direct with me and all that, very helpful. And she said, all you've got to do is go into an AT&T store with your driver's license and they'll take care of you. I said, okay. I go, well, like, did they ask me for a PIN code or anything? She said, well, they probably won't. As long as you have your driver's license, you should be fine. I said, okay. I said, but like, what if somebody goes in with a fake driver's license? She said, well, they're not skilled in detecting that, but the likelihood of that happening is small. I go, okay, but if somebody does go with a fake driver's license, they could pose as me.
That's it.
As well. I'm not positioned to comment on that. Okay, that was with AT&T. So I called T-Mobile and I asked them all the same questions, and they said, well, we have on our iPads, we have an app where we have to scan the driver's license. I said, good, that's great. And then I called Boost Mobile and I asked them all the same questions. And they said, well, you're supposed to have a PIN code in order to swap out your SIM. I said, well, I don't know what my PIN code is. And she said, well, a lot of times it's like we usually suggest either like the 4 numbers of your birth date or the last 4 digits of your social security number.
Oh, that's real clever there.
She suggested that to me, that if you don't know what it is, it might be that. That's often what it is. I go, well, what if it's not any of those? And she says, well, they can usually call corporate and they can override that and they can get somebody to take care of it right on the spot. So all of them everybody that I spoke to, they were very accommodating. You know what I mean? Like, they were very nice. Like, they didn't know that they were dealing with somebody who was doing some research.
Yeah.
They didn't know they were dealing with what we would consider an ethical hacker.
Little social engineering there.
Exactly. And so they were all being very helpful. And being very helpful is what gets you and I a liquidated bank account. Mm-hmm. So there's a few things that, systems you want to put in place now. Number one, you want to do your own research on your own devices. Mm-hmm. You don't, in calling your own telco and finding out, if somebody posed as me, what would my options be? You want to make sure right now that you have an additional passcode on your account that's not your last 4 of your social and your birth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. If anybody's going to swap out your SIM, you want to make sure that it's not going to be easy. And then beyond that, in your digital life, I suggest that everybody use a password manager. So a password manager, of course, is a software program that manages all your passwords. And when I say all of your passwords, that means that you should have multiple passwords, that you're never using the same passcode twice, which is really important because, look, I'm 55 years old. I don't know more than 3 or 4 passcodes that I possess.
Yeah.
And those 3 or 4, it's my Google passcode, it's my Apple passcode, it's the passcodes of my password manager, and I think the one for my alarm system.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all I know. My password manager remembers the rest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And often people will say, well, what if the password manager gets hacked? I'm not worried about that at all. And the reason why I'm not worried about that is because password managers are security companies. The low-hanging fruit is not the password manager for the hacker. The low-hanging fruit is the fact that we are using all the same passcodes across multiple accounts.
Yeah.
And what the bad guys do is they use a tool called credential stuffing. So here's an article that I wrote. I think you could see that over my shoulder over here.
Right.
Credential stuffing, what it is and why you should be concerned. A recent credential stuffing attack on 23andMe left most people bemused if they noticed it at all. Similarly, muted response following the leaks of millions of user records. Basically, an anatomy of a credential stuffing attack is what the criminals will do is they'll go to the dark web and they'll grab millions and millions of stolen records and they'll feed those millions of usernames and passcodes into a credential stuffing software program. And your credentials are then stuffed into this software, and they'll see if they can get it to 23andMe. They'll see if they can get into Amazon, to PayPal, to eBay, to your email, and so on. And they'll stuff your credentials in, say, the top 100, 500, 1,000 websites. And the software will log the bad guy in remotely. That's credential stuffing.
Right.
Now, the way you keep the bad guy out is, number one, you never use the same passcode twice. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, you use two-factor authentication with all your critical accounts, all of them, okay? Let me show you something here, Kerry, really quick. And I know that like the clock is ticking on us here.
Yeah.
So on my website, right, I scroll to the bottom of the website and actually go to my homepage. Right, go to my homepage, and on the bottom of my homepage, one second, you'll see, 1 second. I know the clock is ticking. Thank you for your patience.
Okay. Take your time.
Right down here, you see cybersecurity awareness check, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see checking for email has been breached. And we click on email checker. Okay, now watch this, right? So checking for email has been breached. I type in ROBERTSICILIANO.
What site is this? What site are we on right now?
We're on protectnowllc.com. Protectnowllc.com. Protectnowllc.com.
Right. Got it.
Right? Which is my website. And at the bottom of the homepage, we search my email address, robertsiciliano@gmail.com. Right. And then you see your email and possibly a password have been stolen in the following breaches. Now, what this means is that my email address, robertsiciliano@gmail.com, has been a part of numerous data breaches. Not because I did anything wrong, but because these particular companies were hacked, okay? So this tool that we have on our website allows me and my team to facilitate you researching over 12 billion stolen records.
Mm-hmm.
We have access to 12 billion stolen records, so including email addresses and passcodes. So you see right here, like right at the top, a data dump of a massive collection of 3,000 alleged data breaches was found online, including 80 million unique email addresses and associated passcodes.
Oh my God.
Okay. We have the ability to allow you to research all of that. Here in July of 2018, Apollo had, what is it? I don't even know how many millions of records in passwords.
Apollo is Yahoo.
Yes, 126 million unique email addresses, right? Here's a Bitcoin forum from back in 2014, Billy. We have 5 million and 9 million usernames.
That's the one that makes custom links.
Yes.
Right, to
exactly
redirect, so you don't have to use these monster URLs. So
right.
Bitly got hacked too?
Bitly, Code, Cafe Mom, Discus,
which is showing this is exactly why you need the password manager to create those unique passwords for every site. I mean, I have my standard password, but I change it every single month. And, so like all the old ones that are out there aren't going to do anybody any good in all likelihood. How often should you change your password on your email?
So here's the deal, right? Like, I don't, I haven't changed my password on email for a while because I use two-factor authentication. So here's the deal, right? Even if they have your password, if you have two-factor authentication, whether it's SMS or the Authenticator app, right? Better the Authenticator app or use Google Voice number. Even if they have your passcode, they can't get in if they don't possess your mobile phone.
Right.
So the idea is to make the data useless to the thief. So changing up your password is always a good thing, okay? And if you want to do it every month, fine. But for most of us, I say that security needs to be easy. If it's not easy, you're not going to do it. So I would rather you use a different passcode across every account, use a password manager that manages all those various passwords, and then have two-factor authentication. If you do that, in most cases, you're going to keep the bad guy out because most other people aren't doing any of those things. You become a tougher target, and they become the path of least resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Got it. Yeah, totally.
And then two-factor authentication, right? Like next thing you do is you just Google it. TWO factor Gmail, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, on the first page of search, you see two-step verification at myaccount.google.com.
Mm-hmm.
You could do the same thing for Yahoo, the same thing for AOL. And the main thing for most of your listeners, viewers, is that you've got to tighten up email, man. Like everybody's got to tighten up email.
Yeah.
Email, if they get into your email, bad guys say, own the email, you own the person.
So
and that's
true.
it.
No question.
It's the worst thing.
No question about it. All right. I know you're crunched for time. Robert, where do we find you? How do we get that neat little security checkup that you just showed?
I tell everybody go to protectnowllc.com, protectnowllc.com. Scroll towards the bottom and you'll see use our free email checker to check if your email address and or your passwords are part of any specific data breaches.
All right. Excellent. Hey, you got a question for Robert or myself? Just send me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. And there's a link to Robert's site in the show notes of this interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Make sure you use it while you're there. Sign up for your free newsletter. Robert, always a pleasure, always enlightening, and always gives me something to think about what I should be doing that I'm not. And that's the most important thing.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you.
Hey, likewise. Take care, Robert.
Have a good day.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.